Hey there, Social Security warriors. Breaking news just hit my desk, and I had to share it immediately. After months of advocacy and congressional debates, it looks like millions of Social Security, SSI, and SSDI recipients could be getting an extra $4,000 boost to help combat rising inflation and cost of living increases. This is potentially life-changing news for retirees, disabled Americans, and low-income individuals who depend on these vital benefits. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now so you never miss critical Social Security updates like this one that could put thousands of extra dollars in your pocket. So what exactly is this $4,000 payment about? And who qualifies? Let me break down everything I know about this developing situation. The proposed additional payment comes as lawmakers acknowledge that many beneficiaries are struggling to keep up with today's economic challenges despite the recent cost of living adjustments. According to recent testimony before congressional committees, nearly 70% of Social Security recipients rely on these benefits for at least half of their income, with many depending on it for over 90% of their financial support. But have these adjustments really kept pace with the actual cost increases seniors and disabled Americans face every day at the grocery store, pharmacy, and when paying utility bills? The reality is that traditional inflation measures don't accurately capture the unique spending patterns of seniors and disabled individuals, who typically spend a higher percentage of their income on healthcare, prescription medications, and housing than the general population. Have you noticed how your benefits seem to stretch less and less each month despite the supposed adjustments for inflation? This disconnect has created what experts are calling a benefits gap that has gradually eroded the purchasing power of Social Security payments over time. That's precisely why this potential $4,000 additional payment is so significant. It aims to help bridge that gap and provide meaningful relief. The proposed payment would be distributed as a one-time supplemental benefit to qualifying recipients. But who exactly qualifies? Based on current information, the payment would primarily target those receiving regular Social Security retirement benefits, Supplemental Security Income, SSI, and Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. However, the exact income thresholds and qualification criteria are still being finalized as the proposal moves through the legislative process. Have you been worried about whether you'll make the cut for this potential benefit? I understand that concern, and I'll be monitoring developments closely to bring you the latest information as soon as it becomes available. What makes this proposal particularly interesting is the bipartisan support it's receiving. In our politically divided climate, it's rare to see agreement across party lines, but both Democrats and Republicans recognize the financial strain many Social Security recipients face. The proposed payment is being framed not as a handout but as a necessary adjustment to address inadequacies in how inflation impacts have been calculated for benefit recipients. Don't you think it's about time our elected officials acknowledged these economic realities that beneficiaries have been facing for years? For context, the Social Security Administration has been under increasing pressure to address these issues even before this proposal emerged. Many advocacy groups have pointed out that the Standard Cost of Living Adjustment (COLA) formula, which uses the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers (CPIW), doesn't accurately reflect the spending patterns of seniors and disabled individuals. Would you be surprised to learn that an alternative measure, the Consumer Price Index for the elderly (CPIE), typically shows a higher inflation rate than the CPIW? This discrepancy has led many experts to argue that beneficiaries have been systematically shortchanged for decades. The timing of this proposed payment is particularly significant given recent economic trends. Inflation has moderated somewhat from its peak but remains higher than historical averages, especially in categories that disproportionately affect seniors and disabled individuals. Housing costs continue to rise in many regions. Healthcare expenses are growing faster than general inflation, and food prices remain elevated. Have you found yourself making increasingly difficult choices between necessary medications, nutritious food, and keeping your home at a comfortable temperature? These are choices no American should have to make, especially those who have contributed to the Social Security system throughout their working lives. If approved, the distribution mechanism for this payment would likely follow established channels, with direct deposits to the same accounts where beneficiaries currently receive their monthly benefits. For those who receive paper checks, the supplemental payment would arrive the same way. But when could recipients expect to see this money? While the exact timeline remains uncertain, advocates are pushing for expedited processing once legislation passes. The Social Security Administration has indicated they could begin distributing payments within 60 to 90 days of final approval, though this timeline could shift depending on various factors. Wouldn't it be refreshing to see government bureaucracy move quickly when people's financial well-being is at stake? It's important to note that this proposed payment is separate from the annual cost of living adjustment that typically takes effect each January. Recipients would still receive their regular COLA increase in addition to this supplemental payment. For many beneficiaries living on fixed incomes, this combined boost could provide meaningful relief and help restore some financial security that has been eroded by years of inadequate adjustments. Can you imagine the difference an extra $4,000 could make in your life? For many, it could mean catching up on deferred home repairs, replacing worn-out appliances, scheduling needed medical procedures, or simply building a small emergency fund. Critics of the proposal have raised concerns about the fiscal impact of such a large expenditure, questioning whether the Social Security Trust Fund can sustain this additional outlay. However, proponents argue that the payment would be funded through a combination of general revenue and targeted adjustments to the Social Security funding structure, potentially including raising or eliminating the cap on income subject to Social Security taxes for high earners. Have you ever wondered why someone earning $160,000 pays the same amount into Social Security as someone earning $1 million or more? This funding inequity is increasingly part of the conversation around Social Security's long-term sustainability. Advocacy groups are encouraging beneficiaries to contact their congressional representatives to express support for the proposal. The more voices lawmakers hear, the more likely they are to prioritize this legislation. Remember that elected officials work for you, and your opinion matters. When was the last time you reached out to your representative about an issue that directly affects your financial well-being? Now might be the perfect time to make your voice heard on this crucial issue. For those concerned about how this payment might affect eligibility for other benefits like Medicaid, food assistance, or housing subsidies, preliminary information suggests that the payment would likely be structured to avoid counting as income for purposes of these programs. This consideration reflects an understanding that many beneficiaries rely on multiple assistance programs to make ends meet, and a boost in one area shouldn't result in cuts to other essential supports. Isn't it encouraging to see this level of comprehensive thinking in policy development? As this proposal continues to move through the legislative process, stay tuned to this channel for the latest updates. I'm committed to bringing you accurate, timely information about this potential payment and other developments affecting Social Security recipients. And remember, knowledge is power. The more informed you are, the better positioned you'll be to make the most of any benefits you're entitled to receive. Have you subscribed to the channel yet? If not, take a moment to do so now and join our community of informed beneficiaries working together to navigate the complex world of Social Security benefits. In conclusion, while this proposed $4,000 payment represents significant potential relief for millions of Americans, it's still making its way through the legislative process. Nothing is guaranteed until final approval, but the bipartisan support and recognition of the real financial challenges facing beneficiaries offer reason for cautious optimism. I'll be following this story closely and providing updates as new information becomes available. What would an extra $4,000 mean for you and your family? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this important conversation. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. I'll be back soon with more critical Social Security updates you can't afford to miss.